Welcome to La Vida Las Vegas podcast. We're two physical therapists living the life in Las Vegas. I'm Dr. Erica.
And I'm Dr. Joe. We created this podcast for two reasons. First, to connect the healthcare, wellness, and fitness communities in Las Vegas. And second, to highlight all the amazing people we've met along the way.
Thank you for listening, and remember to take care of yourself.
Today's guest is Candi Fisher. She is a CrossFit coach, pastry chef, and roller derby athlete. We speak with her about coaching both sports and the time Wolfgang Puck tried her orange basil sorbet.
All right, welcome to La Vida Las Vegas podcast. We have Candi Hammer Fisher on, and let's start off with Candi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. Well, my name is Candi, but the Hammer is my derby name. I play roller derby. I've been playing for 8 years here in Las Vegas, and it's a lot of fun.
Which team do you play for?
I play and own the Atomic Rollergirls.
So tell us about roller derby. Like, just give us like a brief synopsis, and we can dive a little deeper into some differences.
Oh, I've heard roller derby described as like playing football on skates while somebody is throwing bricks at you. It's a very aggressive sport. It is full body contact. It's one of the few games where skaters or players are playing offense and defense simultaneously. So while you're trying to help your jammer get through, you're also trying to not let the other jammer through. So while you may do a little defense, you automatically have to switch to offense, like in the blink of an eye.
So explain some of the roller derby terms such as jammer, and then explain what the point of the game is.
Got it. So the jammer is the only one on the track who can score points. The jammer is the one taking all the hits, scoring all the points, and the only... Oh my goodness, it's kind of complicated, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible. So it is 5-on-5. There are 5 skaters on the track from each team, 4 blockers and 1 jammer. There is a pivot, and then the other remaining skaters are blockers. So you'll have 3 blockers, 1 pivot, 1 jammer for each team. The jammers start behind the basically 8 other skaters that are blocking. The pivot is the only other skater on the track that can become the jammer. So if the jammer gets stuck, gets tired, sometimes it's for strategic reasons, we have what's called a panty pass. The jammer wears a panty on over her helmet that has a star on the side. That's how the refs know that is the jammer. That's how the other skaters know that is the jammer. The pivot wears a helmet cover that has a stripe down the middle, and that is how people know that that is the pivot. Usually the pivot is the voice of the pack, and that's what we call the skaters on the track, the pack. So the jammers are trying to get through the pack. Whichever jammer gets through the pack first on the initial pass is the one in control of the jam, which means that jammer can then, if she wants to end the jam, jams normally last 2 minutes. If she wants to end the jam early, if she's gotten her points and the other jammer is stuck, she can call off the jam, which will end the jam before the 2 minutes are up. Or if, oh goodness, see, I'm trying not to make it complicated. If she gets tired, if she gets stuck, she can pass that star panty helmet cover to the pivot. Then the pivot now becomes the jammer. Now that pivot is the one scoring points, and the jammer just becomes a regular blocker. There is no pivot. The pivot's gone. So the goal is to make as many passes as you can. Every time a jammer passes an opposing skater's hips, she gets 1 point. So each pass is worth 4 points every time after that initial pass. You don't score any points on breaking through the pack initially. You score them on your second run through.
Gotcha. And if they pass someone, but then that same person passes them, do they still get that point or no?
The points remain whether you go backwards, forwards, if that person passes you. Again, once you pass an opposing skater's hips, that point is yours, no takesy-backsies.
Gotcha. So how do you go about training for that? With the bricks and all.
Ooh, lots of endurance. I do tend to throw things at skaters to trip them up.
Like that movie Dodgeball?
Yes.
You
Dodge a wrench. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a skater.
Yep.
No, we do lots of agility drills. So, I mean, we're on wheels. We've got to be able to move. Some people have a hard enough time walking around a crowd of people. I've always been the friend in groups when we go out to crowded places. I will lead my people through because I am good at finding holes, making holes, just kindly moving people out of the way in a non-aggressive manner.
Those skills transfer so much.
Yeah, life
They
skills.
do. They really do, especially at Costco on a Saturday. Those I really use my derby skills at Costco a lot, more than I'd like to.
I
Actually,
believe it.
So you're like-
Probably especially near the samples. Thanksgiving ones. I had Thanksgiving dinner there one time. Yeah.
I dodge around those samples. I don't do samples at Costco.
So you're like hanging out on the cart, like, watch out. And you're like, I'm on wheels, man. I
Yeah,
can do
I'm
this.
on wheels. I actually had a lady one time. She was just kind of lollygagging, and I saw an opening, and I went for it. I just like sped around her, and she was like, "Oh my God!" She just cut me off, and I was just like, "You're going too slow."
Did you like put a hat on with a star on it really quick first?
Right, I got my jacket with my star on there.
Yeah. A whiteboard. You're like drawing hash marks on. People are like, what are you doing that for?
What are you doing? I got your point.
Yeah, don't worry about
Once
it.
you pass somebody's hips, you got their point.
I feel like you guys have a really good YouTube video, like how derby girls like go through like Costco. You guys have a
There are a couple like derby girls in real life videos that were done back in like maybe a decade ago or so, and they're still relevant today. It's hilarious.
So what got you into playing derby?
Well, back in 2012 was it? Yeah, 2012 is when I started. I had just had it. Well, my son was about to turn 2 years old, and I wanted to get back in shape. And I loved skating growing up. I was a rink rat. I was at the roller skating rink every weekend, would do the overnight skates, loved being on wheels, would always go. When I lived in LA, I would go to the beach every weekend, actually almost daily, because I lived not too far from Venice. And I would just go, I'd park, I'd skate. And that was just, I love skating. So I was just perusing through the Las Vegas Weekly one week and saw roller derby at the Riviera. I'm like, that's a thing? That's still, like, I remember roller derby back in the 80s, watching it on TV, the Thunderbirds, and I thought, I got to go check this out. So the game was actually on my birthday, and I went to the game, and I was smitten. I was like, I got to do this. I got to do this. This looks like so much fun. It's skating. It's full contact. These girls look like they're having a blast. And so I immediately, after that game, I went up, I talked to some of the skaters. I was like, I want to join. I want to do this. They're like, do you know how to skate? Oh, yeah, I know how to skate. So about 3 months later, I was at tryouts and ready to go. And the rest is history.
Very cool. Do you ever have people show up at tryouts that don't know how to skate yet?
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I've had skaters show up first day of training, literally the first time they put skates on their feet. Yeah. Yeah, we call those Bambis.
Yeah.
Because they're like Bambi on ice from like, you remember that scene in Bambi?
Mm-hmm.
The feet are just sliding out. Yeah, totally. We get a lot of Bambis.
Wow. So how do you go about training for that then? So if you see someone like that, you have a conversation. We're like, okay, probably learn how to skate before you can play roller derby.
It's baby steps. We teach them how to fall, because that's the most important part. So the beginning of every good roller derby training should start with how to fall, because falling is where injuries happen. If you don't know how to fall properly, you're going to get hurt. So the first thing we teach them is how to fall. We wear full gear, helmets, mouth guard, wrist guards, elbow pads, knee pads. Some people like to wear ankle support. Some wear shin guards. But all of that comes into play in how you fall. We want people to fall safely so they can get back up and keep on playing.
What are some common injuries that you would see?
The most common are we got a trifecta: shoulder, knee, ankle. Those are the most common ones. Yeah, ankles, because you're on wheels, ankles roll. I speak from personal experience. Knees, because of all of the lateral movement and cutting and juking and jumping, a lot of people put a lot of wear and tear on their knees. Shoulders, if people are heavy shoulder hitters, they're blowing out their shoulders, which is, I train people not to use their shoulders. I want you to use your full body for the hits. If you focus on your shoulder, you're going to end up having to have surgery at some point.
Yep, it's probably pretty common.
How fast are those newcomers typically like learning how to skate? Because I remember as a kid, like it takes a while. Like I
Yeah.
remember just going in my backyard and skating with one skate on,
Yeah.
with one shoe on. We had a little tiny square in my backyard, so I didn't really get very far.
Only one skate would fit on it.
all it takes, you just need 3 square feet to move around. Our training typically lasts from 13 to 15 weeks, depending on how many holidays fall in there. But I like to say 3 to 4 months on average. And usually by the end of that, they're okay on skates. It takes, anybody can learn how to roller skate, but learning how to move effectively and well in the skates takes a little more time than that. So we actually have 2 levels to our training. We have our basically training you how to skate, how to fall, and then we train you how to play derby. Once you're stable enough on skates, because we look for stability. Stability is important because when you're skating, it's not just your own stability you have to worry about. If you take somebody out with you, now you're not only injuring yourself, you're injuring somebody else. It's kind of the equivalent of being a drunk driver. Like, you're not the only one you're going to hurt. You're going to take somebody else out with you. So we want them to be stable on their skates. So that way, when they do go for a hit or get hit, a lot of girls, it's instinctive. When you start falling down, you want to grab the closest thing to you. So that's the first habit we have to break. Like, don't grab your partner. Don't grab another player. That will get you a penalty, or it'll get somebody hurt.
Gotcha. So, and where does your team play currently?
Currently, we do not have a venue. We just have a practice facility that's big enough for us to do drills. We previously had an amazing venue that we called the Fallout Shelter, but unfortunately it was too close to Allegiant Stadium and got bought out. So we lost our home. Anybody want to give us a new home?
Maybe somebody will hear this.
We're looking for a large warehouse where we can have games.
So what brought you to Las Vegas?
Vegas, I moved out here in the tail end of 2003, I believe. Yeah, 2003. I had been living in LA since 1987, and I just was kind of wanted a new scene, and of course there was a boy involved, so I packed up and moved to Vegas.
How do you like to spend your time in Vegas besides practicing for roller derby?
Hiking. I have just discovered hiking and Red Rock Canyon and Mount Charleston, which is sad to say, having lived out here for so long and having never explored those areas. It's all new to me and I love it. I fell in love with hiking this past year.
It's a good time. It's a beautiful place. I always think to myself when I'm driving in the morning, I'm like, wow, I'm just so lucky to live here. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people think Vegas and all they think of is the Strip, the casinos. It's like, no, there's so much more. There's so much nature and just so many beautiful places. And there's actually culture. I've been a season ticket holder to the Smith Center since it's opened, which I love. I absolutely love going to see shows at the Smith Center. Those are my fancy nights. But yeah, just getting out and exploring all of the beautiful desert that a lot of people don't know about in Vegas. I certainly didn't know about it, or at least didn't take the time to go enjoy it, but now I do.
For sure. Mount Charleston's a lot cooler in the summertime as well.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good break from the normal weather that you would get to.
Yeah, just went up there a couple of weeks ago when it was triple digits in Vegas, and it was like 78 degrees up there. It was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. How about the Smith Center? What's your favorite show that you've seen there?
Oh, my goodness. My favorite by far, hands down, out of every season is and probably always will be the musical Once. Once, yeah.
What is that about again?
Oh, it's about an American guy who meets a girl, and I believe she's from Ireland, and so he packs up and moves to Ireland to be with her, and he's a musician, and he gets there, and she dumps him. And so now he's got this life overseas that he's kind of like, well, I'm here. And I think eventually she moved back to New York and he was there, and he meets this girl from, I think she was from Czechoslovakia, and they kind of had a romance, but she's with someone. It's a complicated love story, but it's beautiful. And the soundtrack for it is amazing. and I love it. A close second would absolutely be Hamilton. Yeah.
Very good.
We saw a show there last year, didn't we? Like a Christmas special, I think.
Yeah, we had the
Like a drumline one,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good.
It's a nice and it's a beautiful venue. Like
Yeah.
it's small and it's very intimate. And if you
Was
will.
that at Reynolds Hall? Because there's the theater, there's Smith Center, which is the big theater, and then they have the small, like a lot of the jazz stuff, like will be in Reynolds Hall, which is just right next to it. I haven't seen a show in Reynolds Hall yet, but I
think it was in the main one, right?
I
Because
think
it had
it
like
was.
multiple.
yeah, like the
Stories,
big, okay, yeah, that was in the Smith Center. But
Okay.
yeah, like they have more intimate shows. Reynolds Hall, they'll do the smaller gatherings, which is really, really cool.
Oh, we definitely enjoyed it. I would go back
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite cheat meal? And then that could be a good segue into another job you had.
Oh goodness, my favorite cheat meal. Whew, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say it's a tie between Roberto's tacos.
Love Roberto's.
What do you get there? Hold on.
Oh, I get the carnitas tacos, the
Okay,
street. I don't like the crunchy ones. I get the soft shell. Gotta have those, the street tacos. So if I'm not getting Roberto's, I actually had a carne asada burrito last night.
Nice.
Solid choice.
After what I went through last night, I was like, I deserve a burrito. And then either that or In-N-Out. So I was kind of torn. Like, do I go for my Flying Dutchman at In-N-Out or do I go get a burrito? I'm gonna go with the burrito.
Let's talk about your In-N-Out order. What's your go-to?
I recently discovered my boss Omar from Social City. He turned me onto the Flying Dutchman, which is basically just meat and cheese. Like no lettuce, nothing. It's just meat and cheese. Yeah, with grilled onions.
Oh,
Haven't tried that yet.
Yeah. So you just order. I order a Flying Dutchman with pickles. I'm weird. I like pickles.
I love pickles.
That's good.
So I'll get like 2 Flying Dutchmans, and that would be my indulgence.
So is that a 2-patty then? Like a
Yeah, 2. It's basically a double without all the crap.
with the sauce?
I get no sauce. No, I don't think there's sauce on it.
Oh, okay.
Because
So
I
it's
just say, give me a Flying Dutchman with pickles, and I get, it's 2 patties, 2 cheese, grilled onions, and pickles. That's it.
yeah. I never actually heard of that
Yeah,
one.
it's that secret menu thing. You got to know. Like, Omar's got that in. He knows all about that secret menu.
Of course.
It's good.
You got to know Omar.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Very cool. So you mentioned Omar as well. So what do you do for Omar?
I coach at CrossFit Social City here in Las Vegas. I've been coaching there. October 14th was my 1-year anniversary of coaching. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I love
And
it.
how did you get into CrossFit?
How did I get into CrossFit? It's funny. Derby got me into CrossFit because my first 3 months in Derby, I was training, and not even a cool story, just at the park, just goofing around, fell, broke my ankle. So after that, I thought I need to be stronger. I need to be in better shape. I need to be able to recover from injury faster. And I was looking at different gyms around town and looking for some recommendations. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you should try this thing called CrossFit. It's a lot of fun. I think you'd like it. And so I went to, at the time, CrossFit 702 and loved it. So CrossFit got me better at Derby. It made me stronger. It helped my endurance. It helped my strength. It made me an unstoppable, like nobody could hit me out of bounds. People could hit me, but they would bounce off me. So it increased everything from my stability, core stability, strength, ability to take hits, ability to give hits. It just made me overall stronger. So I've stuck with it ever since then.
So the nickname Hammer. Let's talk about that. In the Derby world, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody has a nickname.
Everybody's got a Derby name. Yeah,
Oh, Derby name.
Some people have nicknames and Derby names. Yeah, like I have a skater. We called her DA. That was her nickname, but her Derby name is Battleborn Betty. But
Okay.
we would call her DA, and she would answer that too, and that stands for something that I probably can't say. Trying to keep it clean.
So how'd you get the name Hammer then?
Well, Hammer. So Derby names are funny. So when you start playing Derby, you automatically make a list. You're like, I want this to be my Derby name. And then you find 20 other players that have that name. You're like, oh, I can't do that. Okay, it's played out. Because if I had gone with my original Derby name, I would be Suki Stacked House, because I was a huge True Blood fan. And my mouthguard actually has vampire fangs on them. But luckily, I did not go with that because I don't think I'd like to be called Suki at this point. But a friend of mine, we were hanging out, and she had seen this movie that she told me, she's like, you got to watch it. It's called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog. It's with Neil Patrick Harris and Nathan Fillion. And Nathan Fillion's character is Captain Hammer Corporate Tool. So a friend of mine, she's like, you are Captain Hammer. And I was like, okay, I got to watch this movie. And so I watched the movie, and I completely and utterly identified with Captain Hammer. That was my personality. I was like, yeah, that fits. I think I'm going to be Captain Hammer Corporate Tool. So derby names, you either pick them, you're dubbed them, or they just kind of a nickname turns into them. Yeah.
At what point in your, like, if you're on a team, or like at what point when is like, this is going to be your name? Is there like a period of time where you kind of have to go through this initiation?
You got to earn it. In the derby world, you have to earn your derby name because we get a lot of new skaters that come in, and off the bat, they're like, my derby name's going to be, and we're like, don't care. Keep it to yourself. Don't even, because half of you aren't even going to make it through the program. You're not even going to last the 3 months of training. So that's cute. We're glad you picked a name. Keep it to yourself until you pass minimum skills. We don't want to know. Make your list, put it on your phone, put it in your notepad, nightstand, whatever. But it's kind of like, I look at it as bad juju to start trying to get people to call you your derby name before you've passed that minimum skill set and actually earned it. Because when I went through derby, and a lot has changed over the past 8 years, we had this thing at the end of your initial training called the gauntlet, where it's a hazing. You got to go through all the veteran skaters, all of the travel team A-level skaters, and they beat the crap out of you. Yeah, and you've got to make it through them in order to, like, I did it, and I did it twice. And so I really feel like I earned my name. So anybody that comes up to me and they're like, when I start playing, I'm going to be, that's cute. That's just, hold on to that, and we'll see how you do.
I love that. The earned respect there.
You got to earn it.
So back to the food. What else did you used to do?
Well, in a former life, I've done so many things, but one of my favorite ones that I still kind of do, I was a pastry chef for 5 years in LA, which was a lot of fun.
How'd you get started doing that?
How'd I get started doing that? I went to culinary school, and I used to host dinner parties. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would always invite friends over for dinners, and I'd have these huge, like, themed parties. When the movie Soul Food came out, I was like, I'm gonna have a soul food party. So while everybody was in the living room watching the movie, I'm in the kitchen, like, literally cooking everything that's in the movie. And so they're watching this dinner scene in the movie, and they're smelling everything that's on screen coming from the kitchen. And when the movie was over, I had everything laid out, and it was just such a great feeling for me. I'm like, I love feeding people. And when it came to the choice of how I got specifically into pastries, my thought process was anybody can cook. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, season to taste. Like, it's really hard to mess up food. Like, it's either good or it's not. But pastries is a science. Like, if you replace baking soda with baking powder or vice versa, it's not going to be what it's supposed to be. If you add too much sugar or too much salt, like, everything is measured and scaled, and even down to how you mix things. If you overmix, if you undermix, I liked the science of that. And I really loved the creativity of creating, like, these works of arts. I loved working with sugar. I loved working with chocolate, like building little chocolate sculptures, sugar pieces to go on desserts. So I focused on that in culinary school. And when I got out, I was amazed. One of my chef instructors was so impressed with me in school that she recommended me to work at Spago's, which the original location on Sunset, which is one of Wolfgang Puck's, his first restaurant. And I absolutely loved it there. By far, to this day, it's still my favorite place that I've ever worked as far as the restaurant industry goes.
Now, when you were working as a pastry chef, what is that, like, the menu, is that set, or is that you have a little bit more freedom of what you're able to do?
Well, I was the one place that I worked the longest. I actually was the executive pastry chef, so I got to create the menu. And everything I did was seasonal. It was based on what was available at the local farmer's market. And I would base my menu on what was in season because I wanted it to be good.
So what kind of things what are your favorite things that you made from like the proudest moments as a pastry chef?
One of my proudest moments was actually making a birthday cake for Danny DeVito and Harrison Ford. They were at the restaurant that I was working at, and they specifically requested a coconut cream cake, which I had never made before. So I just I found a basic recipe. I put my little spin on it, and they absolutely loved it and sent their compliments back to the kitchen, and that plate came back clean. Like there was not a crumb left on it. So when I see that, like that was the biggest, heartwarming feeling for me. Because my dad, when I told him I wanted to become a chef, he's like, it's a thankless job. I'm like, not really. Like I get my thanks when I see empty plates come back. That warms my cold little black heart. So getting that compliment, like saying that was the best coconut cream cake we've ever had, thank you, and that plate comes back empty, that's like more than words to me. Like it's just an amazing feeling.
Did you how many times did you make the coconut cream before you're like, all right, this is the one?
I think I only went through like two trials before I was like, okay, I'll stick with this one. Yeah, because I made the cream, and it's like you don't want it to be too much coconut. You want to be just enough or not enough, and so I had to kind of play with the ratios a little bit. But when I got it that just right, I was like, this one's good, and that was the one I went with. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you didn't learn that day of, like you had a little bit of a warning time to figure it out.
I had a couple days notice.
Okay, good.
I had a couple days notice. So yeah, it was a long night in the kitchen the night before, just setting up my pastry filling, my pastry cream, and then getting the coconut in there, letting it sit overnight, yada, yada, yada. But then the next day, like tasting it. And that was the hardest part of being a pastry chef. The food, because you've got to taste it before you send it out. Any chef that sends out food without tasting it, are you really a chef?
Yeah, it seems like that'd be really tough too, because especially if you're not as familiar with maybe one of the dishes that you're making, you might have some reference point for it, but you might not have it finely tuned like you might for other things.
And everybody's taste is different. What might taste good to me might not taste good to somebody else. And and I've had things where people were like, it's just not for me. But that was pretty rare. I'll toot my own horn.
Is that so with pastry, there's like classic things like I want to say like French baking or I can't even think of any.
Like a tarte tatin.
Yeah, like something that's very classic in what you find is. Do people kind of give like, all right, I really want the classic, or like people like kind of the spin on however you make it?
People like the creativity of it. I mean, you can get the classics anytime, anywhere, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're, and that's the thing. When you do something that is like a classic, like if I order a tarte tatin, I know what to expect. I know how it should taste. And if it's not that, like if it doesn't have the right texture, if it doesn't have the right consistency, if it doesn't have the right flavor, I'm going to be like, you messed this up. So you don't want to mess with the classics, but anything new, you feel free to put your spin on it. I loved creating new desserts. Like that was my thing. I loved creating a menu.
You still do that at home? Like if you're at home, you're like, all right, I'm going to make some kind of pastry tart thing.
Not for me.
No?
I'll do it if I have people over for dinner.
So what is something you commonly see in your practice that you wish more people knew? And this can apply to coaching, chef, or you can do an answer all for all.
Or derby.
Or
anything.
derby.
Yeah.
Or life in general.
Yeah.
So something I see, run that by me one more time.
So what's something that you commonly see in your practice that you wish more people knew?
I wish more people knew. Ooh.
Other than earning your derby name?
Just as a coach in general, how to be open to not just criticism, but any kind of input, just being receptive and open to it. Coaches are there to help. They've been trained. Hopefully they know what they're doing. I like to think that, I've gone through the training. I've done it. I think I know what I'm doing, pretty sure. But yeah, just being receptive and open to feedback. And that's not just in derby, because I've had skaters where you tell them, okay, I see you're doing this, but try it this way, and I always try to come off not in a demeaning, attacking, or condescending way, with any, whether it be roller derby athlete, CrossFit athlete, life. Just saying, hey, I noticed this. How about you give it a go like this? See if this helps. See if this makes it better. So just something that I see is that I wish other people would acknowledge or do is just being a little more receptive to feedback and input from somebody who might know a little bit more than you do at the moment. So.
And that's really how you learn. I mean, that's why people get mentors, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that you know what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always open to getting feedback and criticism, good, bad, and different. Last night, I played rugby for the first time ever in my life, and had to be very open and receptive. I was just like, just tell me what to do. I'm listening. Like, just please give me all the feedback you can. I am totally new to this. I am an open vessel. Fill me with knowledge.
And I think that's learning a new skill in general. I think that's
Yeah.
so fun. Like to be able to challenge yourself and do something different with your body. Learning how to do something in general takes a lot of mental capacity, but physical skills also. You're just like, you talked about like Bambi, like learning on skates, right?
Yeah.
And then that might be how you felt.
Yeah, I was a
going in.
Bambi last night. I was a total Bambi. The first thing I did was I tagged one of my own players, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry, guys. Just tell me, yell at me, tell me where to go, tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
How about when it comes to making pastries?
Making pastries. Same thing. Listen to feedback. I've had chefs, feedback, good, bad, and different. I've had chefs go like, hey, this isn't really the greatest. Like, why don't you try doing it this way? Cool, noted. I'm going to give it a go. I've had chefs working at Spago's. I worked at the original location, but then for one night I went and worked at the Beverly Hills location, which was the one that Wolfgang Puck was actually residing at. And my first night there, I'm preparing my sorbets for the line for the evening. And I had seen him in passing, never really met him, still haven't ever really officially met him. But my one experience with him was I've got my sorbets lined out for the night, getting ready to put them on the line. And he walks by and just scoops his finger through one of the sorbets, tastes it. I get an approval nod, and then he goes on about his business for the night. So I'm like, all right, it's okay.
What flavor sorbet was that?
It was the orange basil, which is one of my favorites.
Well, that's the game winner. You know that's your go-to.
Right? That's the one I'll
Wolfgang
make
Puck
every
approved.
summer. Yes, Wolfgang Puck approved.
That's good. Go ahead.
And what is something that you've been working on either professionally, personally, physically, mentally that you're excited about?
Oh, so much. Working on emotionally, mentally, physically, just doing better, being better, being stronger, just not just physically, but mentally, especially with everything that's been going on lately, with people having to be in quarantine, in lockdown, just had to kind of redo the way we do business in general. And especially in the athletic community, it's put a lot of limitations right now. For instance, perfect example is derby. Roller derby has come to a stop. There is no roller derby right now. There hasn't been roller derby since March 16th. Our last game was on March 14th of this year, and luckily we got it in, just sneaked it in right before that quarantine, right before the lockdown hit. But we haven't been able to do any contact. We lost quite a number of skaters just because they had immunocompromised people living in their homes, and to them it just wasn't worth the risk of even though we do, when we gather, we do social distance, we wear a mask, we're very careful not to come into contact, to not do any kind of cross-contamination, things like that. But for a good solid majority of our skaters, it just wasn't worth the risk. So we completely had to revise how we did things. And it was the same thing at the gym. We had to revise how we did things. We had to adapt and still be able to do what we need to do. But we just had to put measures in place so we could stay strong mentally and physically. So right now, for me, the biggest thing is just keeping that mental strength, keeping that physical strength. And that's what I just work on every day.
What's something you do that helps you with your mental strength? Like, just give us one thing.
Mental strength. I like to say that I'm a good mix of optimistic and pessimistic. I'm not a glass is half full or glass is half empty. At least there's something in the glass. So just kind of keeping a positive outlook. Like I hope for the best, but I'm kind of always prepared for the worst. So that way, if it does happen, I'm mentally prepared for it, but I'm not expecting it. I'm not waiting for it to happen. I'm waiting for the best, but I do keep in the back of my mind that sometimes things go wrong. One of my favorite phrases, and I don't know, it's like PG-13-ish, but one of my favorite phrases that I say all the time: the best laid plans don't always get you laid the way you planned. So with that in mind, that's pretty much how I approach everything. Like, I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to hope that it works. I'm planning on it working, but it might not. So I need to be prepared for that as well. So I say I have more of a positive outlook on things, and that's what's keeping me mentally strong, as opposed to just waiting for stuff to go wrong.
That's good. And I think especially right now for people that it's hard to not do that. But the people that seem to be doing well are the ones that are trying to adapt for what's happening. And I think it's good. I think it's good advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's something that you've learned and you wish you knew sooner?
Oh, goodness. Something that I've learned and I wish I knew sooner. I will say that I really wish I knew about Red Rock sooner. I wish I knew about all of these wonderful places here in Vegas so I could have been enjoying them much longer. It's a shame that it took a quarantine and a lockdown and having to be so socially distanced for somebody to say, hey, one of the safest things we can do right now is go hiking. Like, let's just go on a hike. Because prior to that, I wasn't the outdoorsy type. I played roller derby, I did CrossFit, but as far as like getting out there, so I wish that I had discovered that a lot sooner, because I feel like I've got to make up for a lot of lost time and enjoy everything that Nevada has to offer, because it's a beautiful state.
I heard it was the most mountainous state. Is that true? I think somebody was saying that the other day. I might be wrong. Yeah. Fact check that. So what is something you want to leave listeners with?
Oh, goodness. It's find a passion. Find a passion, something that I when I try to decide on what I want to do, I think about what I would do if I wasn't getting paid to do it. Like, I've heard the phrase, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, every day I do what I love. I skate and I lift weights. And I love it. And whether I was getting paid or not, by the way, I don't get paid for roller derby. I do get paid to coach CrossFit, but roller derby is not a lucrative financial venture, but it is a passion, and I love doing it. So if there's any, and I've given this advice to my siblings, I have 2 younger half sisters, find a passion and just pour yourself into it. Find something that makes you happy, something that brings you joy, and enjoy it.
I love it. How can people find you?
Well, right now they can find, as far as roller derby goes, we have a website, which I probably need to update. We have a website, atomicrollergirls.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we do give a lot back to the community. That's one of my favorite things about roller derby, is how much it gives back to the community. So if you're interested in roller derby, please check that out. If you're interested in CrossFit, check out CrossFitSocialCity.com.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is fun. I've never done a podcast before. This is my first, so it's exciting.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
We'd like to thank you for listening to La Vida Las Vegas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the time with our guests as much as we did. It would help us out so much if you could share, subscribe, or review our podcast, or any combination of the 3. Thanks again, and remember to take care of yourself.